Right, hello. Hopefully this goes out to people as usual. And again, I'm using the Osmo Pocket 3 to do the stream because it's a better quality thing than my actual webcam. I've got that other light set up I bought. And for the people who didn't see the thing during the week, because I'm no longer working the job I used to do, I can actually stream at the weekends now, which is nice. So, yeah. So hopefully we get some people on. Because sometimes if you've done a stream on the same day you've uploaded a video, it's sort of, not great YouTube at sort of sending out the thing. All right, Itis Classic. I've got this chainmail glove here again today for whatever reason. I just thought I'd pick that up for today's stream again. So let me just pop that on. I should tell you what, I'll put the glove on underneath it that you're meant to wear with them, and then that way it'll be more comfortable. But yeah, so hopefully we get a load of people on, like I said, because I would normally stream weekends, but like I said, the problem has been for the last few years that because I was doing a job where I worked weekends, I'd never have the energy unless I was on holiday, and then I might be off doing something else that to do streams on the weekend. So yeah, let's get that chainmail glove on. It'll be interesting to see if with the Osmo Pocket 3 you can actually see its chainmail a bit better than you can with the other webcam. Probably can. I should tell you what, if I undo that, then it will go on a bit easier. Okay, it's because I'm trying to put over a fixed sleeve is the problem. Can I just about get that round? Or have I put on a bit of weight since I last adjusted this? Sometimes as well, it's just getting it to not pull at the wrong angle when you're doing the strap up. All right, equalizer. Yeah, annoyingly, I don't know if that's because it's not got my wristwatch on that wrist, have I? No. Yeah, probably tightened it up a bit too much. Yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust the straps, because what I've done with that is at one point I obviously tightened up the these straps where the little buckle bit is. So I want it to go closer to the end, don't I? So I want it to go that way a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. And then this one I want to do the same thing with. So I think, yeah, because I did it when I lost a load of weight when I was ill. Obviously, I've now made it too loose. So there we go. Let's try again. And because I've got a glove on underneath, and if you're not wearing a glove underneath, it's a bit tighter anyway. Right, if I can find the right finger holes for it again. There we go. Ah, well done, Stalker of an oil lantern. All right, so there we go. Let's try that again. Yeah, it should go on easy this time, but now the little button's pulling too far to the side. There we go. That's that one. They're not under ITAR because they've been out of service for ages. M17s. So yeah, I've got an M17A2. Yeah, I've got an M17A2. M17s aren't under ITAR. They were obviously years ago, but now they're not. M40s in theory shouldn't even be under ITAR. It should just be the M50s. Yeah, but again, eBay isn't necessarily a good thing to do with that, because again, even if legally stuff like that isn't still in service, there are still people that in like the postal service and everything else that won't know the difference. Because that's the problem I've had with buying a lot of American surplus, is even the stuff that isn't restricted any longer doesn't mean that some of the sellers don't know that or don't want to ship it. So you can get stuff sometimes that even though it's perfectly legal to ship or whatever, somebody somewhere down the chain says it's not. A bit like in UK customs, you can buy stuff that's completely legal and somebody in customs goes, oh no, that's not legal. I don't know. I haven't got anything like that at the moment, Saint. I've got one of those little mini chainsaws, but so a chainsaw shirt. Annoyingly, I can't really type with this on my hand. I suppose I can type very slowly. Hang on, with my left hand. Chainsaw shirt, and I want ones that are obviously, because everything coming up now is just image. So you mean like the protective clothing, don't you? But everything coming up is yeah, never mind. I won't bother looking that up on the stream because everything coming up without me exact searching it isn't the protective. Yeah, like I said, so it's just, yeah, like you're saying, it's going to be something that's designed to just slow down the blades. But yeah, but yeah, like I said, the stuff I've got what I need now anyway, because like I said, I've got a proper stab vest plus that collar. Like we said, you could always put something like this on if you needed to for grabbing a blade in an emergency. But you're right, Scott. So yeah, for the people wondering, oh, and don't forget to like the stream, by the way. For the people wondering, because I don't do the job I used to do, I can actually stream Saturdays and Sundays now, assuming that I'm free on the day and I've got the energy and whatever else. But like I said, the problem was before, obviously, when I was working at the weekends, no way I could stream when I was working because I'd be at work. So so yeah, there you go. There's the, because that actually focuses on that. Look, that's good. So yeah, there you go. That's the that's that chainmail glove, the one that's like the butcher's glove. Yeah, the autofocus is really good on that camera. Don't know how close I can get before it can't focus about there. Well, when you say 28 days later, do you just mean living in the UK? But yeah, I ought to do an updated one of those. The good thing at the moment, Saint, is once I've gotten through the backlog of videos I want to get filmed, you know, where I've bought stuff to do videos on and then not got round to doing them. The good news is now, obviously, that I've got a lot more time to at least film videos because I've got, you know, essentially 7 days a week where I can do YouTube stuff potentially each week. And, you know, it's not like I'm going to be completely exhausted from work where there's a couple of days per week when I then don't want to be filming videos because I'm exhausted. So I dug out the GQ GMC 800 because this is the Geiger counter. I did use this for a video earlier. But this is the Geiger counter. Like I was saying, I recommend to people who just want one for, you know, like buying a brand new Geiger counter for about £100, $100. This is the one I recommend to most people. Yeah, and I've got the little protective case on. It comes with the belt loop, but you can obviously take it out of that. And there's also what, yeah, so unless they've gone up in price, Saint, these are exactly $99.99 on Amazon. I don't know what they are in dollars. They're a US company, GMC. But this one, the 800, is a really damn good model for what it is. But what I am looking into doing is and again, I bought one, like I said, because it was cheap enough, I could risk buying it to do a video on. There is a Chinese one that's meant to be fairly good. That's about £50, £40 to £50. And somebody online does custom firmware for them, you know, that's free to download. So you plug them into your PC and update the firmware, and it suddenly becomes a much better Geiger counter. You know, it has a lot more functions you can do with it and that. So I'll be doing a video then comparing that updated compared to this. Because when you get one by default, I think it's pretty similar to this one. And I charged this up for just showing today. No. So I think the other one I was on about is pretty similar to this one. But once you get the new firmware for it, it's apparently like a really, really versatile counter, you know, that has a lot more functions and everything else. Yeah, I know that that's how the prices convert, but what I'm saying is some things like that, you know, even when they shouldn't be a one-to-one price thing, they just do a one-to-one price thing. Good, John, as in, again, like I said, I'd like to have, you know, a job I can do, I can enjoy, but at the moment, compared to sort of, you know, doing something that was really stressing me out and, you know, all that sort of stuff, good, because I can be productive and get a lot more stuff done, you know, and all that sort of stuff. And again, I've been also using it to catch up with friends, for example, that their only days off are the weekends, and where I used to always work weekends, we'd never get a chance to chat or like see each other. So I'm catching up with them as well, which is really nice. So like I said, until after Christmas, I'm definitely not going to look for anything part-time or full-time just because, all right, Rich, Like I said, I want to get Christmas out the way with and actually enjoy Christmas once, because, you know, if you're stuck in anything retail related, Christmas is always miserable with all the Karens and everything you have to put up with. So yeah, for once I'm looking forward to actually Christmas this year, because it's actually all right. We're Six Blades. It's like, you know, at least a year this year where I can actually have Christmas as actually a time to enjoy spending time with other people, not, you know, dealing with, you know, like Karens and everything else, like I was saying. So yeah, so I've got a video coming out tomorrow and a video coming out Monday. I got 2 videos filmed and scheduled today. Tomorrow I'll be filming more videos. I'm trying to get into the schedule again, now I've got the time to do it, of doing nearly a daily video and stream. Oh, that's good, Kevin. So yeah, because like I said, if you're using one that has an infrared projector light or whatever, that's not a problem, is it, with animals? Because they can't see infrared, or they won't know why the infrared's there. It's not like with a person where you have to worry that somebody else will be using their own night vision, seeing you projecting your own IR. Again, it depends, Saint. Like, again, some people can work retail and have a really, really good experience for years, you know, like always have pleasant customers and stuff like that. Other people can get assaulted working retail, have shit thrown at them, you know, plus having to deal with managers from hell, you know, and everything else. The main thing you get in retail, Saint, though, is the thing I hate about it is you get the kind of fight or flight response where somebody's being an absolute dickhead to you or being aggressive, and you have to just stand there and kind of nod politely, because, you know, you'll get in trouble in most retail jobs if you tell the customer to fuck off, even if it's what they should be told. All right, like I said, Rich, I don't really get involved in that sort of drama, but it's sort of good. It's sort of cathartic to know that if somebody's, you know, not a nice person, that, you know, potentially they're not having a good time. I don't wish ill on people, but, you know, if he had nicer opinions about other people, I might feel more sorry for him. But yeah, like I said, that's the main problem for me when I worked retail, was the fact that you'd have people that would be, you know, absolutely should be told you're being a dickhead, you know, fuck off. It's whatever, Rich will tell you the full channel name. It's the one that does the sword videos and like all the medieval videos. That's the one. But yeah, so but like I said, that's the main problem for me with retail, is the fact that you have to like nod politely and all that and take it when somebody's just using you, you know, to have a go at like the world essentially. And then, you know, then you might get it from your manager afterwards because, oh, even though you dealt with a customer in the company thing, they want to make a complaint against you. And then what's the Zoomer stare? I'm completely out the loop with all this stuff. Yeah, the part of my job with my most recent job, I didn't mind mopping and stuff like that. That sort of bit I didn't mind. Cleaning stuff down and mopping, I didn't mind. It was just more dealing with other people and you know, when you had other stuff where you were at the short end of the stick for, you know, whatever. Ah, that's good. Thank you, Kelly. You've reminded me I need to do a proper video on my guide thermal. And again, like I said, that's one of those things now I actually have time to do a proper video on now. Because, you know, I could, like, say a Saturday or Sunday evening, whatever day of the week, it wouldn't matter if it's a good day with good weather for it, which it isn't today. I could go and take the thermal out and go for a walk with it, or like the night vision units, and I don't have to think, oh, I'm getting up at whatever time, so I need to, you know, can't do tonight. Because that's the sod's law thing when you're trying to do a video of like night vision or thermals. If you get good weather, like lighting for doing a video of the thermals, I bet you it will be a day where you have to get up really early the next day. Well, Rolando, like I said, thankfully at the moment I'm not in a retail type job anymore, so I don't have to. Is that actually all right, Stalker? Because that's the sort of thing that if it's sort of antisocial, again, I wouldn't be doing it for Christmas, but that's the sort of job I wouldn't mind doing. Like for me, antisocial jobs aren't really the problem. It's just more for me, it's more the problem where you have to deal with, you know, like aggressive customers or sort of that sort of thing, you know, where you have to put up with human drama for a job that shouldn't. Yeah, it depends, Scott, because like I said, I would hate doing an office job, but also, like I said, I don't mind jobs where I actually get like dirty, you know, doing that sort of stuff. That for me, because I've worked with people that hate the idea of, you know, getting dirt on their clothes or their hands, and you know, that's not the stuff that bothers me with, you know, because with my old job, that was like half the job was doing stuff where you'd get filthy, you know, and like stinker grease and whatever else. That was the bit that didn't annoy me. The stuff that annoyed me was when you had to deal with the public and stuff like that, you know, and they'd cause problems. But again, when I look for stuff, it will have to just be regarding what's around in my local area at the time I'm looking for something. Because like I said, when you're looking for stuff like that, that's where it can really vary with, you can find stuff one minute and then the next minute you look, there's those sort of jobs aren't available. Yeah. Oh, and I dug this one out as well, the Russian one, because this was getting mentioned on the stream the other day. How does it compare dose-wise to... Oh, they're both pretty close. Oh, that one's at 0.32. That one's gone down to 0.2 now. But again, with these, they have quite fast refresh rates, so they change in quite similar time. Well, like I said, out of all of these, I do like the GQ GMC 800. And like I said, the nice thing is this is one you can just actually buy if you want to buy it. It's not one like with these where you have to get them smuggled out of Russia, you know, and it's... Because again, these are actually really nice counters for what they are. It's just the problem with these is obviously they're ones where these aren't commercially sold as a sense. These are ones where, oh no, comrade, it has gone missing from the stockpile. Yeah, I know a couple of people that have done that, John, and exactly, yeah. Like, I don't mind a job where, you know, it's like you have X amount of hours and you have to get X amount of work done. Like saying, for me, it's just more the kind of jobs. One of the things that really gets me is when you start doing a job and you've got like a set workload, and then somebody says, all right, now I'm going to give you another job to do on top of that. And then when you're doing that, you get given another job on top of that. And then, you know, because you can't do all the jobs at once, somebody has a go at you for like not getting everything done, you know, or prioritizing which was the more important job, even though you were given several jobs to do. Yeah, well, you never know, Kelly. I might be able to find something that involves respirators. But like I said, at the moment, right. So what really affects the lifetime of them is how much you're using them. Because when you're in theory, a lot of them have like a life rated in the amount of counts they do. All right, unfortunate Sunlow. But yeah, so in theory, with a Geiger Muller tube, it has a finite amount of counts. So, you know, the more you're holding it up to radioactive stuff and the faster it's ticking, the shorter the shell, like, you know, the life of it. Although I've never had a tube, as far as I'm aware, burn out because of, you know, like the tube essentially burning out. Although in theory can happen, and I've got you know, a couple of Geigers where the tubes have gone, but again, I don't know if that was the original cause of the fault. But what tends to go wrong with a lot more of them is just a capacitor or whatever burning out. And again, if you're good at electronics, especially the older ones, you can open them up, find a resistor or capacitor or whatever that's burnt out, you know, find the closest equivalent one, solder it in, and you're fine. But the problem with obviously some of the more modern ones is because they're all PCB boards, you can't really replace a part like that if they fail. All of them detect gamma radiation, Rolando. So that's the one thing every single one does. Then it basically goes down the chain. So all of them can do X-rays and gamma rays, not necessarily well, but they can all do it. Then most Geiger counters also do beta radiation. Very few do alpha, because for alpha, they have to have, like with that Soviet, well, it's not Soviet, the Russian one, where they have to have one of these alpha windows on, where they have to have a really thin, it's called a mica window. Like, so they have to have a really, really thin Geiger Muller tube, like with almost like a plasticky window to let the alpha radiation through. And most don't have that because it makes them not very durable and more expensive to produce. So what most Geiger counters have, like that GMC one I was just showing and this Chinese one, is they have a Chinese, like a Soviet or a Chinese glass or metal GM tube there, which normally detects beta and gamma. But if you're in a place with lots of X-rays and gamma rays, they saturate pretty quickly. And again, like I said, that's one of the reasons I do like, again, it's a bit hard to pick these up with the gauntlets on. Yeah, I'll take the gauntlet off now if I'm playing about with electronics. I don't want to drop stuff, but yeah. So when it comes to these sort of things, again, spectrometers are the ones I really like because and especially this one because it can do alpha, beta, and gamma, and it's not technically a Geiger counter. This one, it's a set of spectrometer, so it's even more sensitive. I like the PBF, even though I wish there was a version without cheek filters. Same exact logic, Scott. It's just that it's on its own wand, not built into the counter. So I've got some German ones like that, a Polish one, a Soviet one like that. Basically, I've got a couple of modern ones with wands as well, but basically all those is the fact that the probe, if you like, yeah, because they do call it a probe, is that basically the tube that would be inside one of these is just on the end of a wand, and then it's connected via a wire. And the idea is that you can hold it away from you and scan stuff without putting, your thing right up to it. But in theory, they're no different. They both have Geiger-Müller tubes in. It's just some have them built into the little unit themselves. And again, with modern ones, it's a lot more convenient having everything built into a little kind of phone-style unit than it is, having a load of accessories, because obviously it takes up a way more room. So say like that's a vehicle-based one, that Polish one on the wall there. But that would have been that unit there, and then you'd have like the actual probe on a wire, which you'd mount to somewhere on the vehicle or whatever. Same as, like I was saying, if you have the little infantry ones. But the idea of those wands is that you can put them on like a big kind of, like a big stick essentially. And then you can, sweep them along the floor as you go, checking for contamination on the floor without having to lean over. And also, you can stand a slightly safer distance away from stuff. But in theory, they don't work any differently. They all, work using GM tubes if they're a Geiger counter, Geiger-Müller tubes. It's just that they're, like I said, it's just those ones are, essentially, it's like having an extension lead, essentially. The electronics are identical. It's just that they're at the end of a, extension lead rather than being directly on the counter itself. But it doesn't really affect the long-term life of them. What is good, though, with the old school ones that have the tubes, on the lead, is sometimes they're much easier to get replacement parts for. Because if it's one where, you could just swap the probe out on the end of a big long wire, with some of those, you can go on eBay and find a replacement probe and just, buy it and swap it around. Where when they have internal Geiger-Müller tubes, sometimes it's much harder finding the replacement parts. What sort of type is it, Unfortunate Son? Like an old school one, or like an old school type one, or like a more modern type one? Because again, the old ones I find a lot cooler, but modern ones are just a lot more practical. Like a digital screen? If it has a digital screen, it's definitely modern. Like the older ones are normally always a needle on them that moves. Because yeah, all the older ones tend to be like, obviously where you have like a 0 to 5 scale or whatever with a little needle that every time there's a Geiger-Müller like a count in the tube, it makes a little pulse that makes a needle tick. Yeah, that or thorium or something similar, isn't it, Scott? If it's a modern white one, it might not be, but search up GMC 300, something like that. GMC GQ 300, for example. If you look up something like a GQ, I'll get a picture of one up. Hang on, I'm going to take this other little glove off that I had with the chainmail glove on, just because, again, I find gloves awkward when I'm trying to type and do stuff. But again, I wouldn't recommend this one for this price on Amazon. I'm just going to shorten the URL because it doesn't need to be this long. Because this one isn't as good as the 800, but it costs more money. All the same price. But is it something like this? Yeah, it might be. Like I said, just the GMC 300 is a really common one. It isn't a bad model. It's just one of the really common commercial ones. But yeah, like I said, that's basically been completely surpassed now by their kind of more modern looking ones like this. Like I said, I had a GMC 500 somewhere, which is pretty good. This technically spec-wise isn't as good as the 500, even though I like it more. Because it's, like built into a more compact unit. It's, I'd say, a lot more user-friendly. Yeah, like I said, the spectrometers, they're a lot more advanced and costly, but spectrometers are kind of cooler in the sense that you know, they're technically more capable and everything else. Oh, that I just noticed on Amazon, that one is $44.99. I was just showing there. Probably got a different name. It's called AP8E8, AP886A on Amazon, and this is called a HP886A, but otherwise it's the exact same model. But like I said, I've got a cheapish Chinese one coming that I've heard is really good if you put your own custom firmware on it. And they're about £60 to £100 on Amazon, but you can get them for less than 50 on AliExpress. So I've just ordered it off AliExpress, and then I'll do a video, you know, what it's like out the box. I'll do a proper video, and then the custom firmware that people do. You might be able to run Doom on it, because a lot of them apparently are just like very, very basic mobile phones that they just have their own firmware on to be Geiger counters, not like really cheap smartphones, if that makes sense. Yeah, so Mossberg shotguns, Kevin. I have no idea, because like I said, the only thing I could think of is drones, like you were saying, but you'd think you'd want an auto shotgun for drones, wouldn't you? Like bird shot from an auto shotgun. But yeah, I'm just wondering if I can actually get at the screws easily enough on this one, because then I'd show you what a modern Geiger Muller tube looks like. But I bet you the screws are hidden on this one underneath, probably underneath those rubber feet, which I don't really want to pull off if on this one. But yeah, because I do have a couple of Geiger counters that should be in. I have no idea, John. But what was I going to say? I do have a couple of Chinese ones that apparently are compatible with the firmware this guy makes. I'll link you to the website with the firmware on for anyone interested. I don't think YouTube's going to censor this. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody, as I always say. So it's called Rad Pro, the thing, and loads of people swear by this, but I haven't tried it yet myself. So this guy does the firmware, and you can use it on the FS 2011, the YT23B, the Bosian FS6000, the Bosian FS1000, the Bosian FS5000. I think that's the one I've got on order, the FS5000. The Frenesi GC01, I've got one of those somewhere. So again, if I find where that is, I could test this firmware already. The Joy ITR JT Rad 01 and the GQ GMC 800. So yeah, I could actually put his custom firmware on this one, but I like the firmware that comes with this, so I wouldn't bother. But with the Chinese ones, apparently it's quite good, because I think it's with the GC01. By default, I really liked that, but it wouldn't click. And one of the things I said to people is I didn't like the fact that, you know, it didn't do a clicking noise. Because when I personally recommend Geiger counters to people, I like, you know, I like when they do the clicking noise, because I think lots of people think of the clicking noise when they think of a Geiger counter. But apparently this custom firmware does let you make the cheapo ones click, because they do have a speaker that would let you do it. It's just the firmware that comes with them don't have an on and off speaker for the clicking mode. I have no idea, John. Like I said, I am not into like TV signals and stuff like that. Yeah, just to show you this one works. If I'll get out its case again in a minute. So if we get that there, I'll get the thing I was using for the video earlier, the aircraft dial. And as you can see, that GQ GMC works absolutely fine with the detection bits there. It'll probably go even higher if I get the needle directly over that bit. So I quite like this one because it's yeah. Again, the problem with talking about shotguns is with YouTube's rules now on all the firearms related stuff, I try not to talk about guns too much on a live stream in case they get taken down again. That's all right, Kevin. I'm just sort of saying it's just one of those things where so yeah, for example, with this one, like I said, if I put the thing on here, it will start vibrating, if I remember right, yeah, and doing the alarm. But the problem with this one is it doesn't do clicks, for example, but this one isn't on the list of ones you can have the custom firmware put on. There we go. So yeah, that does work. Like, again, some of these Chinese ones, if you wanted something just to warn you if you were around radiation, they'd work absolutely fine for that. And you'll see with this one, I can demonstrate how it gets more sensitive when you open the shield up on the back. So if you get that way, you can see it. So that's with the shield closed. Starts saying 110. Again, they're not all calibrated on the same stuff, Geiger counters, which is one of the problems with them. And that's the shield open. So yeah, see, it's a bit more sensitive. But yeah, the problem with, like I said, the problem with Geiger counters is how they work, is they are only accurate count-wise. One count equals, like, you know, whatever radiation dose when it's next to its calibration source, so like cesium-137 or cobalt-60 or whatever else. So the problem with a Geiger counter is it's only actually accurate when it gives you a dose, as opposed to like counts per minute. And again, you can set these to counts per minute or counts per second. They're only ever accurate in, like, you know, giving you a dose reading when you're actually experiencing the exact thing that's giving off that dose. Whereas, I'm going to put this on charge. What I do like with this one as well is it's just a USB, wherever the port is. Yeah, it's just a USB-C port. So these modern GQ GMC ones are really easy to charge up. But yeah, so what was I saying regarding stuff to do with the Geiger counters? Yeah, radium again, but a lot of them aren't calibrated on radium-226. But yeah, so again, that's one of the things I like with spectrometers and ionization chambers, is in general, because they're better at telling what the energy of something actually is. Let's just put this back into so we could have it in that mode. So these are generally more accurate for what you're actually getting for a dose, because they know what the energy spectrum is of, say, a gamma ray, and therefore obviously they know that something that's a higher energy count is more dangerous. But like I said, but yeah, old aircraft dials are fun. You know, you wouldn't want to lick the paint off of them, and obviously if you've got one, keep it sealed with the actual thing closed on it, because obviously the paint can flake off of these, and that paint is certainly not good for your health. If you look up the radium girls and what happened to the people that, you know, used to lick the toothbrushes that painted them and everything else, radium is a fucking nasty thing. But yeah, radium glow-in-the-dark stuff is cool, but we use tritium now because it's a lot safer. Or just, you know, non-radioactive paints. But the reason that, like I said, the reason that radium was popular is because obviously the radioactivity would make the phosphor in the paint glow even if there was no external light source. So in theory, you know, you could have a glow-in-the-dark thing that you could keep in a pitch black room and it would always glow. Same with tritium when it's within its half-life, because it's being powered by the radioactivity in it to make the glow-in-the-dark powder glow, rather than being one that, you know, glows when it's exposed to light and then fades the longer it's in the dark. I've got a bit of tritium on my keyring, because you can just buy tritium like sealed in a vial for a keyring, and it is quite cool because you can have it in a pitch black room and still see the you know, glow in the dark bit of the tritium. But yeah, so like I said, just trying to think of various things to say. I'll just check. I bet it won't work, but I am just going to, every time I do a live stream now and I'm doing it via widescreen, I am just going to check on the streaming interface if it does let me do that dual stream thing, but I bet it won't. If Saint's still on, I did ask Mike about it, and he said when he did his, it was using StreamYard, not via the YouTube thing. So yeah, my dual stream doesn't work. So yeah, That makes more sense, because if it didn't work for Mike, it's not going to work for me. It's probably because they've not enabled the thing yet. Probably really far. I've got a fake 3D printed drop and run Cobalt 60 pencil. But yeah, the scary thing about those Cobalt 60 pencils is by the time you might have held it up to your face to read the bit that says drop and run, you've probably got a lethal dose of radiation. If you've not got a lethal dose of radiation at that point, you've probably had enough that your arm's going to need amputating and that you're going to be very ill. I've talked about it before, but there was a crazy one apparently in Chechnya during the 90s where some guys stole loads of Cobalt 60 irradiation sources. So not even the ones from radiotherapy machines, you know, the ones for killing radiation, like in a irradiator. Not killing radiation, sorry, killing germs in an irradiator. And one guy stole like dozens of these Cobalt 60 pencils that were loaded into one of those irradiators. Apparently, he's like one of the very few people in history to die, you know, within the same day of his radiation exposure. As in, he died within 30 minutes of putting all those cobalt things in his coat because of, you know, just molecularly how it broke down, you know, like the hydrogen in his blood or the oxygen in his blood or whatever. But his body, I asked ChatGPT about this, and I'm just going to see if I can find. So, assuming that ChatGPT got all of the, you know, numbers right, if I can find the thing. I'm going to read out to you the fucking crazy numbers. So at 0.01 centimeters from him, if you had a thing, so, you know, at skin contact, the amount of stuff. So he apparently had 243,000 curies worth of Cobalt 60 on him. So at point blank range at 0.01 centimeters, you know, like if you're holding it, he would have been exposed to 3.2 billion Rontgen per hour. At 1 meter from him, it would have been 320,000 Rontgen per hour. Now, bear in mind that about 1,000 Rontgen per hour is definitely a death sentence. So at 10 meters from him, or, you know, 10 meters from all this Cobalt 60, it would have been 3,208 Rontgen per hour. And bear in mind, the worst bit of Chernobyl was about 15,000 Rontgen per hour. Somewhere on the roof or whatever, straight after the reactor exploded. But the crazy thing is, it works out exactly as 3.6. 300 meters from his corpse, you would be reading 3.6 Rontgen per hour. 300 meters from him. And it's inverse square law how radiation works. So, you know, the distance, double the distance, quarter the dose, or whatever it is. So, yeah, that guy stole all that radioactive material. So, yeah, I'm not surprised he was dead within 30 minutes. Because within 30 minutes of carrying all that, he'd have been exposed to, you know, hundreds of thousands of Rontgen at a minimum. Probably way more than that. But it's like the numbers with that are almost impossible to work out. There's some really cool videos, John, on YouTube of like people making radios from really basic kind of scrap things. Yeah, RTGs they're called, Scott. Yeah, radio thermide electric generators. How they work is basically the heat from a decaying bit of like cesium or strontium-90, for example, give off decay heat. So you have to actually keep it cool when it's nuclear waste. So what these things work, they were thermal batteries, and basically, you know, so the batteries were powered by heat. So when the batteries got hot, they generated electricity. So you essentially just entombed a bit of like quite a big chunk of radioactive waste inside one of these to create a bit of constant power for like 30 to 60 years with, like, say, strontium-90 in. And there's a famous one in Georgia where some woodsmen found a huge bit of strontium-90 from one of these RTGs. And yeah, they apparently, because it was melting the snow, because it was warm to the touch, they were like, oh, this will be great to use it as a pillow. No, Kevin, tritium is really safe because it's a very weak beta source, as in it's not penetrating at all. And the glass that holds the tritium gas inside with the phosphor is generally thick enough that it blocks all of the radiation. So if you got a really sensitive meter and put it directly onto the glass of the tritium, you might just get a reading. Tritium is really, really safe. Again, I wouldn't recommend breaking it right in front of your nose and taking a whiff of it, but tritium is really, really safe. There's a reason it replaced radium. Like I said, tritium, you can basically have it right next to you and not receive any dose off of it because of how it's designed. I mean, at least tritium vials. It's a completely different thing if you're exposed to tritium gas inside a reactor or something. All right, John, have a good evening. Yeah, exactly. While we only lethal dose 50, lethal dose 100. Yeah, this guy is like, I want all the rabs. But yeah, like I said, tritium is very, very safe because if it's still in this room, I have a tiny bit of tritium that's quite new. Hang on. Let's see if it's still in this room. It is. Right. Okay. I may or may not be able to demonstrate to you the radioactivity of tritium in this room. So if I can get the light dark enough. So this is a little red bit of tritium in here, as in the tritium doesn't have a color, but it's a red phosphor. So you won't be, with the light on, you won't be able to see it glowing at all. Let's first flick this light off. That's still not going to be visible, but if I hold it right to the camera, I don't know if that will block enough light that the tritium will be able to be seen. Yeah, there you go, look. If I put it directly against the camera, you can see the glow coming from the tritium because there's no other light. But as soon as you move it away, you won't see that glow because of the fact that, yeah, there you go. You can see it quite well there. Until the camera changes the color and it makes it not look red anymore. Yeah, so red isn't as good. Most people like green tritium when they have tritium because of the fact that green is obviously much more visible to the human eye, which is why most gun sights are red. But you can get tritium in any color you want. It's just obviously, depending on the color, depends how bright it is. But yeah, just to show you, so I won't get the tritium vial, even though it's glass, out of that little bit of plastic, because that will do nothing, that tiny bit of plastic, to block radiation. But if I put this directly on this Geiger counter, you're not going to get a reading off of it with tritium. Or if you do, it will be so tiny, so much of a tiny difference. So, with this Russian one, with the shield open, we might just be able to get a tiny reading off of it. Let's see. Yeah, and that's why it needs to be refreshed in nuclear bombs very, very frequently. So yeah, you can just about hear that tritium ticking away on this counter, look. So if I take that away, see where it's just going up to about 1 microsievert, 0.9 to 1 microsievert. If I take that away, it should start going down again. But that's because it's got an alpha window on and it's like bang on right next to it. And again, this is picking up a bit of the other radioactive sources I've got over there, like that radium dial I put back away. But so there you go again, look. So that's 0.6 at the moment. Put that directly onto it. I'll put that light on again because it's not great for seeing what I'm doing about that. But yeah, to give you an idea how short range the exposure is from tritium, you literally have to have it bang on a counter that has an alpha window. Because if I close that shutter back up and then put it there, it's going to start going down again because that tritium isn't going to be penetrating that back cover, look. So yeah, that's going down. Open the shutter again, put it right back there. It will start counting up again. But yeah, tritium is very, very safe. Yeah, if you've got proper glass and everything over your sights, this probably wouldn't even pick that up. Because like I said, like with this counter, for example, even though this is quite a good counter for what it is, if I put the tritium directly on it, and again, turn the Mac light on. Oh, maybe we're getting something slightly. Let me just take it away again and see if it counts. No, it's still counting up, so it's not actually the tritium doing that. But yeah, the only other thing that might get a reading from it is my spectrometer. And it won't in the gamma mode either, so I'm going to have to open the pin diode bit at the Mac. Open that bit up. Switch it to the pin diode. Just trying to remember how I go back to the standard mode. Is it function? No, it's not function. I want. Hang on. Just trying to remember this, how you actually, because I don't normally use the decimeter mode. All right, there we go. We're back on the normal mode. And this shouldn't set this off here because, like I said, this doesn't give off any gamma radiation, so it shouldn't set off the crystal. But if I go to pin diode, you hear it's now stopped ticking because it's a very short range detector on this pin diode. If I put it there, you're going to get anything? No, nothing. Let me just quickly take this out of the packet. I'm going to do this on the mouse mat so I don't risk dropping it and losing my tritium. But I just want to try it without anything between the detector and the thing. So no plastic, no foam. Just trying to remember where the little opening is for this little thing. But this is like a replacement gun sight one that, you know, you can slide it into your gun sight to replace a bit of tritium in there when it's, you know, where's the hinge should be there, but I think it's because I've not opened it in so long. It's, yeah, it's just been a bloody bitch, this little packet. There we go. It's starting to come across that right. I'm just going to open this up, and like I said, I'll do this on the table so I don't risk losing my tritium. So I'm just going to pop that vial down there. Right, the vial's there. If you hear anything come out of this at all, it's picked up the tritium. But yeah, let me just hold it literally up like this, just so you can see. So there's the tritium. And yeah, that detector on the back isn't even sensitive enough for that tritium to set that off. But now I've got that tritium out. Actually, let me just go to the other mode again. I just want to see if I literally do put it directly on top of the sensor, if it is going to do anything, but it probably won't. Which side is the sensor on? But yeah, so that. Let's turn that off again for the moment. But yeah, so with this Russian one, if I open the slide to let the radiation through and put it just directly on the tritium, we'll see how high we can get this one to go. Right, so again, we're at whatever it's going to be. It's going to probably go to about 0.2 background. Put this on top of the tritium. So I can get it lined up properly with the bottom. You can hear there that it's actually, yeah, counting the tritium, but it's, again, like before, only going to about 0.6 microsievert, so only about a little bit of tritium, even when you've got an alpha window detector right on it, is only 3 times background. Again, some areas of the Geiger tube might be a bit more sensitive than others, but yeah, it's like I said, with tritium, it's very, very not sensitive. And again, if I close that shutter, pop it on with the shutter closed, here all of a sudden the ticks have basically slowed down a lot. Yeah, well, I was saying if it wasn't sealed, tritium doesn't work because tritium is in a glass vial. If the glass vial is broken open, the tritium gas escapes, and then it no longer works as a sight. So yeah, that's the thing with tritium, is that basically, yeah, it's one of those things that, like I was saying, tritium is really safe because when it's actually in its thing and it's glowing, the actual glass is blocking you from being exposed. So anyway, let's pop that back as it was. So I want to put that there, put the foam against the thing, seal that back up. So again, this is, I just do this so I don't lose this bit of tritium, and there we go. Like I said, if I hold it directly against the camera, you might see a bit of glow if I get the angle right, but I have to block off all other light because otherwise you just start seeing the room light. I had that other light off before, didn't I? It's there, but the problem is the camera sort of auto corrects the red color to a different color because it thinks, well, that shouldn't be red. So, yeah, so that's the thing with tritium, is that tritium is really safe because when it's actually in its thing and it's glowing, the actual glass is blocking you from being exposed. So anyway, let's pop that back as it was. So I want to put that there, put the foam against the thing, seal that back up. So again, this is, I just do this so I don't lose this bit of tritium, and there we go. Like I said, if I hold it directly against the camera, you might see a bit of glow if I get the angle right because otherwise you just start seeing the room light. I had that other light off before, didn't I? can't get it in frame now. There it just about was, and then again, it's one of those things where if you use night vision, you can actually see the tritium pretty brightly. Because just trying to get that a bit more center. There we go. Let's see if now. You just saw a bit of red for a second then, I think, and then it went again. The camera, yeah. See, that's the problem with this is if when you get it in place, the camera auto sort of color corrects the red off of it. I don't know if it would have a green one, but yeah, with this one, look, it goes. It's like that pink red color, and then it's gone because yeah, it just because the camera does the auto like lighting color correcting, and then it thinks, oh no, that shouldn't be a red color. That should be something else. So anyway, I'm going to put that tritium in my box of goodies up there so it doesn't go missing. Because like I said, that's a tiny thing. But all right, hype. I was just showing people tritium, like my little tiny red tritium vial. But yeah, like I was saying to the people in this stream, the only thing I've got that actually picks that tritium up handy is this, with the shield open, because even the pin diode detector on the Mizal doesn't pick it up for whatever reason. It picks up alpha sources and that, but I think the tritium is slightly too far from the sensor, so you've lost most of the energy by the time it actually gets to the sensor. Yeah, I think, Kevin, in theory, I suppose it's because it's just emitting light, isn't it? And it's like most lights you can't sharpen that way under night vision. Because in theory, I think with night vision, if you had a bit of tritium and you had the night vision completely stable and completely focus the objective lens on it. Yeah, it could be that, but like I was saying, yeah, the only thing I've got that picks it up is the this one. All the others, like I said, if they're beta or whatever, don't pick it up. And like I said, this Chinese one doesn't do it, but some of my other Chinese ones, like I said, when they arrive, I'm going to put that custom firmware on, and we'll see how good the cheap little meters are with decent firmware on. Yeah, although it does depend on what gas they use in the tube, because I've got a couple of Geiger counters that have GM tubes that if they're exposed to visible light, UV radiation, gives you false readings. So again, they're ones that if you did it in a dark room, they're really, really sensitive, but you have to be careful with them, because if you use them in like regular light, they go, all right, Rajiv, I'll only be on about another 8 minutes or so, because I have been on 50 odd minutes. But yeah, so like I said, it's nice to do a stream on a Saturday for a change. Hopefully this will be a lot more common now. And again, just streaming via the Osmo. That's getting quite hot as well. That's the only problem I found with this Osmo is it gets really, really hot if you're streaming through it for too long. Because I think you can't normally use it for about an hour straight without the battery running out. Let me actually get the thermal up on my phone, and I want to see what the thermal says the temperature of this little camcorder is, the Osmo Pocket. Yeah, it's about 52 Celsius, 53 Celsius at the moment. Just to take a picture, and then we'll change it from the overlay mode to just standard IR. Let me see if I can find a hotspot on it again. And open that picture. Right, if this shows properly on the camera, that's how hot my camera is getting. Look, 52.6. The lens is about 45.7. There's a bit just underneath at the very tip of the screen that's got to about 52.6. Mary Chrysler. Okay. Yeah, so it's very good. But yeah, like I said, that's the only thing I have noticed when I finish one of these videos is it's really bloody hot if I've had it on for about an hour. And yeah, it's pretty much right above where the folding bit of the screen is, where the most of the heat is. So yeah, it's one of those things that, like I said, when I do these, I don't really like doing them over an hour on it. It probably doesn't get much hotter than that, but it's one of those things where I'd rather not risk burning it out by, because again, even when I'm running it as a webcam like this, the battery does drain faster than it charges up just being on a USB thing. It's not too bad. I think it's normally at least like 80% battery left when I finish doing one of these streams. So in theory, you could probably get 4 or 5 hours out of it if you had it plugged into a USB while streaming. But yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's particularly a good idea to leave it on that long. But yeah, I had quite a productive day today, at least. Working from home now on Saturdays. Got 2 YouTube videos filmed and scheduled, one for tomorrow, one for Monday. This stream I've done, did a load of laundry, chatted with one of my mates, catching up with him that I haven't heard from in ages because of the fact that, they're normally like, free on the weekends and working during the week, which means I never get in contact with them. Yeah, I mean, you can get spectrometers that do that, Deand, like the Mesow does that, and the Radiocodes do that. Yeah, I've also got like a really retro scintillation counter somewhere, with the wand, the big crystal in. But the problem with those is those crystals don't age particularly well, so they lose a lot of sensitivity over time. Oh, that's pretty good. Right, that's good to know. But yeah, I'd still rather a stream didn't randomly cut out by overheating. But yeah, like I said, doing about an hour per stream is quite nice. But yeah, I would definitely recommend either a Mesow or a Radiocode. Radiocodes aren't too expensive either. Like, I think the most basic model, let's have a look at their site. But yeah, I like Radiocodes a lot. So Radiocodes products, they're all pretty good. Their cheapest one is the 102. I've got a Radiocode 102, and that is £150. The 103 is £195, the 110 is £240, and the 103G is £365. In general, it's just the more expensive they are, the more sensitive they are, but also, that actually has a lower total range, if I remember right. So out of all of those, the 102 being the cheapest, it's the least sensitive. It's still very sensitive. I've got a 102, and it's more sensitive than my 101. But the 102, like, whatever it maxes out as, the more sensitive ones have a lower detection range. So they're even more sensitive and even better for getting a really nice spectrum picture. But, they max out at a lower range. So that's one of the things of the, Radiocodes, is that if you wanted to detect higher radiation ranges, you actually go for the cheaper one. Yeah, like I said, because bear in mind, like I was saying, that the GQ-GMC, and again, I don't think £100 for one of these is bad. These are basically £100 bang on, brand new from Amazon. And like I said, the Radiocode being like £30-40 more than that. If I had the choice of one or the other, I go for a Radiocode. I also like the fact a Radiocode is about the size of your thumb, a little bit bigger, but it's like, it's compared to the Mesow. Again, the Mesow is a better spectrometer, I'd say, but the Radiocode is about, not as thick as this, and it's not too much shorter, but you'd get probably, Radiocode's probably half the width of that. So yeah, Radiocode's kind of like a rectangle like that. Yeah, it's very much pocket size. I took mine all around Germany when I went to Germany, and the Radiocode also has a mapping feature on their app, which is really good. So you can walk around and then later on look at a map, where it's reporting every second or whatever what the radiation levels are and the counts where you were. So you can look at a map and see like a color-coded map of where you've walked around, and you're like where the highest activity was or whatever. And interestingly, when I was in Germany, the highest radiation reading I got anywhere was in Sachsenhausen, whatever it's called, concentration camp, near one of the walls. And I'm assuming there might have been something radium, near that wall at one point. Because I didn't notice at the time. I didn't stop and clear the spectrum and get a new spectrum bit. But I'm assuming it was just like near that wall, they might have had some radium paint painted on a bit of the wall at some point before it collapsed. Because that bit was like 150 times higher than a thing 10 yards either way. So either that or there was just something very radioactive naturally in the rock of the wall, in the concrete. But there was a bit in the Eagle's Nest that was pretty high in radiation as well. I don't think that was right at the top, where naturally when you go to higher altitudes, you do get higher radiation readings. But I think with the Eagle's Nest, it was because there was probably, again, something in one of the bits of wall that was just a lot more naturally radioactive. Because there was an area near me at one point when I used to go for a walk where there was one particular spot that was a bit more radioactive, not silly. Yeah, historically, before they knew how dangerous radium was or didn't care. Yeah, in some bunkers and like pillboxes, they used to paint radium where the firing slits were, or like as in like a glow in the dark kind of guide kind of thing. So you could just follow the glowing kind of paint in the dark to either walk around or like know where the window was in the bunker, like one of the firing ports, because they paint like the inside bit of the firing port with radium paint. So if you're a gunner, you knew exactly where the hole was in the wall, even if it was pitch black. Well, what's his name? Heisenberg's reactor was quite weird. It was like little cubes. Didn't work. But yeah, anyway, I'll go off now because I've been on over an hour. Hope everyone has a good day. Like I said, it's nice to be able to do a stream on a Saturday. If I get a chance, I'll also do a stream tomorrow. Might be at a completely different time. I don't know yet, because by doing streams at different times of day, different people get a chance to catch them. Yeah, M10M is based on the M17. There's the Polish MP4. Check out the Chinese. Is it M65? If you don't know that one, the Chinese M65 is an interesting looking mask with its single cheek filter. But yeah, have a good evening, everybody. Don't forget to like the stream before you go off, because again, sometimes if you like the videos, YouTube shares them more. If you want to support me, there's links down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, thank you very much, Deand8538. I appreciate that. Cheers. So yeah. But yeah, I've got a video tomorrow on gas masks to do with radiation, protecting you. 07, what's 07? But protecting you from radiation, like how they do and don't work. There's another just different radiation video coming out Monday, and then I'm just going to get some different type of oh, salute. Oh, I get you now, yeah. With like the little emoji kind of thing, yeah. Not that stupid 6767 thing all the Zoomers do, or the Gen Alphas, whatever it is, meme. I don't understand. But yeah, there's a different radiation one that people might find interesting if they find the radiation stuff interesting. Otherwise, I'll find it very boring on Monday. And then, like I said, at the moment, I'm trying to get 1 or 2 videos filmed today so I can get a video, either a short or a proper video, scheduled for each day again. Because, like I said, at the moment, I've got time to be creative and actually get stuff filmed and stream a lot, which is great. I really enjoy that. But like I said, that for the last few years, I haven't had the chance because I've been too busy with work and stress related to work. So anyway, have a good evening, everybody. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I will be on again, hopefully tomorrow for a stream. And there is a video that goes live. All the videos now I'm just scheduling for midnight, because I'm never going to be streaming at midnight as far as I'm aware. So this is UK time. So the videos just go live at midnight, because that's the time if you schedule a video on YouTube, it sets it for automatically. So I don't need to change it. I change the date for what day it goes live. People in a few other time zones seem to watch them as soon as they go live, which helps the metrics then. It's like people in the US, I guess midnight is pretty good in their time zones. It's probably like 5 p.m. or something, isn't it? 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. sort of time in bits of the US. That's where most of my audience is anyway, at midnight. And that means when I do a live stream, there's no chance that the live stream is going to be at a conflicting time with a video I've uploaded, scheduled to go live. Right. Have a good day, everybody. I'm going to head off now, and hopefully see you all for a stream tomorrow, and I'll get some more regular content filmed and scheduled for later in the week. Right. Have a good day. See you all. Bye.